So you get a competitive edge compared to your competitors who might be still focusing on completion of tasks quickly. That is another way of saying go slow, but go first time right. And that's the speed you're going to gain in the long run, which is going to stay with you forever.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews.
Hi and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nuske here. I hope you're doing wonderfully well. It is going to be a great call today because I'm on the line with Dr. Raman K Attri. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's my pleasure to be at your show.
Yes, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Now, just for some context, Dr. Attri is the founder of a research firm, Expert X. He's a leader in a Fortune 500 company. He's a performance scientist. He's a speaker. He's also a prolific author. And we're going to be talking about his latest book, Speed Matters, along with many other topics on today's show. But with all that being said, I always like to start by learning a little bit about my guests. I'm wondering if we can learn a little bit about maybe where you live.
Yeah, Rick. I live in Singapore right now. I'm settled here with my family. But otherwise, I was born in India. But before coming to Singapore, I have been to many places. And it has been quite a journey for me. So right now in Singapore, I manage a training center for a Fortune 500 company. And I love this place.
Yeah, I can see why, given the bio that I've read through and all your information and your website, why you have such a passion for this and why you created Speed Matters makes a lot of sense. We're going to unpack much of that throughout today's call. But before we do that, a little bit more about you. Do you have any sports or hobbies?
I used to play chess when I was young, but lately I haven't really gotten anything. Just to give the context that physically I am disabled. Right. I can't walk because I got polio when I was 6 months old. So it has taken away a lot of my physical part of the body. So all I work now, and I have worked in my life earlier, is using brain power. So that's why you see I'm a little bit more passionate and in learning. Yeah, and that's my main field. Yeah, no, you can say that's my sports.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Now, I also know that you love movies. What's your most favorite movie?
My movies are a little bit more on a sci-fi side, and I have been a great fan of classics, Back to the Future kind of series I used to love when I was young, but more lately and recently, the more what's James Cameron is making, Avatar and those series. I love those.
Yeah, I know that they're bringing out a new Avatar soon. That should be very exciting. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I was waiting for that. Yeah, I heard that. I saw some clips of what he shot underwater, and those were fantastic.
Yeah, I remember going to the cinemas and watching it in 3D. I was blown away. Have you ever watched a 3D movie?
Oh, yeah, it was outstanding. When I was young, I used to say that, if for nothing else, I would want to become a movie director, and I wanted to combine engineering and, movie art together. And I think James Cameron is the guy could have been my ideal back in those days.
Yeah, well, speaking of mentors and people that you look to, when you were growing up, did you have somebody who stuck out for you that helped you become the man that you are today?
Good question, Rick. But unfortunately, I lived in a place where their people were not educated. There were not many medical or educational facilities, and we were living in a remote area of India, and nothing was accessible. Unfortunately, I never had any guidance or mentorship in my early days. Even in the later phases of my life, it was all about me, what I was experimenting. And that was the main reason why I kind of set up this Expert X forum, where I want to be able to provide mentorship and guidance to people, because that was the main thing which lacked in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been to a lot of places around the world, and I've seen that, I guess, a lot of the countries where there's not many opportunities to get mentorship or there's no infrastructure, they seem to be the happiest people. Why is that?
I think it's not about happiness. It's more of a sense of achievement, I would say, Rick, because when you don't have any kind of support, mentorship, you need to figure out your own ways. You know that it's your race at that point of time. And you figure out the technique, you figure out the strategy, you figure out the method. And what happens is part of that when you also achieve something. But at the same time, you have kind of figured out some wisdom which you can share with the rest of the people. And that builds your network, that builds your community. I think that's where that happiness is grounded.
Yes, thank you for the feedback. I mean, having polio is a challenge in itself. How do you think that's, contributed to the things that you're doing nowadays? Has it been a barrier, or has it been enlightening for you to go through that experience?
I think in the beginning it was a barrier because it happened to me when I didn't even know what it is. So I basically lost my ability to walk well before the age of learning to walk. So essentially you can say I was born like this. That's how I knew myself. So in the beginning, I didn't know what it was, but then when I started comparing with the rest of the kids, and then I figured that, okay, I have something which is lacking. So in the beginning in the early years, it was a hindrance for me because I felt bad about this. But later on, when I figured that, okay, whatever it is, it's going to stay there with me. It's part of my personality. So what's the thing I can really do better? So that's where I kind of realized that my immobility possibly can give me the distraction-free time. I can sit and I can focus, I can read books. And that's where my journey to read books and learn of my own started. And very soon, I think I started loving reading and learning so much that became my mainstream. And that's perhaps the reason that where I kind of stretched my own boundaries, I started experimenting on myself because I thought, that could be my X factor. That's what's going to keep me ahead of others because comparison is inevitable when you are young. People compare you with other people. So that's part of the equation. So I think out of that equation, I began to learn better. Yeah. And also at the same time, I wanted to see, can I learn faster than others? Because that gave me an edge to learn ahead of my age and to make my own place, in my social network. So I think it helped me, that immobility, who I am today, it is a lot more contributor to what happened to me in childhood.
I know that we have a lot of people on the show that get some inspiration from our guests, and I suspect that you will be no different in this regard. Do you have people that turn to you, when they're down or they have their own challenges, to look to you for inspiration, for uplifting moments, some words of inspiration?
Yes, I do. In fact, I have been always told that my story is so inspiring or motivating. But my message to people have been that, I have my own struggles. I mean, it has been a difficult journey for me. I can't be your motivation or inspiration anyhow. What you can learn from me is how I clarify my own path, how I gain that clarity, learn that technique, because that technique is transferable. Learn that and then move forward in your life. There is no point getting the inspiration because inspiration is very short-lived. Any kind of motivation we get, it basically buzzes off very soon, depending upon your circumstances. But clarity is something that stays with you forever, and that gives you the fuel to move forward. So people come to me, and all the thing I help them is to gain that clarity, who you are, what you're meant to be, and how you should move forward or which direction you should move forward.
That's wonderful feedback. Now, I know you've touched on books and your love of books. When you first started reading, what was a book that you can remember fondly?
Yeah, this might be quite surprising. The first book I ever read in my life was Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
What a classic.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I read this book at the age when kids typically read comics, but I was reading this book, and I think that made the whole difference, because that was the way to understand the life and stay ahead. And when you start with these kind of classic, your life take a different turn. So I was glad to have that kind of book at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think, what other classics have you read? And Think and Grow Rich and those types, have you read those?
Yeah. I have read quite many books. I mean, in fact, my early years all started with Dale Carnegie. In fact, once I started reading Dale Carnegie, I read all of his books, including the public speaking and don't how to stop worrying and everything. And those are fantastic. And then I began reading the books about something like that. Don't say yes when you want to say no. So it's a little bit more on the assertive side.
Yep.
But lately, when I came into the professional world, I have been fond of reading Jim Collins' books because his books are grounded in research, particularly the books like Good to Great. It tells you as an organization, as a company, how are you going to, take an average company to a great company? What kind of things needs to happen? So that was fantastic. So those are the kind of books I have been reading lately.
It seems to me a lot of factual-based, statistics-based, knowledge-based, and mindset psychology. I'm wondering if you could talk about mindset as it relates to the workplace and how important it is to have, I guess, the quote-unquote, the right mindset.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Rick. Mindset, I think, is very foundational to our existence. I did this research on speed to proficiency, and I approached 70 world-class organizations. And I asked them that what are the factors that basically pull you down? I mean, why you can't gain the speed when you were struggling with it? So their answer was all very simple. It's all about mindset. Because people have this mindset, their limiting belief at the workplace that will typically pull them back. And in certain cases, people put this kind of boundaries around them that I can't do it, or I am not the best person to do this. So there are ways, in which that mindset gets developed in our corporate circle and the way we work. And mindset also originates from culture. Because sometimes the organization culture is very rigid. And when organization culture does not give you that flexibility, it shapes your mind in certain way. Many organizations call those as core values. But what happens is that when you emphasize core values too much, you have no room for fresh air. And that creates your own kind of mindset. Now, some may argue that's great mindset. Some may just live with mediocre kind of mindset, but mindset is there whether or not they realize. And more often changes do not happen in organization because of mindset.
And we're going to take a very deep dive into your latest book shortly. But I'd love to go back a little bit just for the context of the call and learn what your typical day looks like. Is it up early? Are you an early riser?
By nature, I am not, but by job, I'm forced to. Yeah, my virtual meetings start early in the morning, so that's the reason I need to kind of wake up. But if I was given a choice that I don't have any virtual meetings, then I wouldn't like to wake up early. So, but I am a late night owl. I can wake up, stay awake until 2 a.m. So I work pretty late at night, but waking up early is it's a challenge for me.
I'd love to learn a little bit about how technology plays a part in speed within the workplace, because I know it does. Is there a place for technology, and what do you talk about in terms of technology inside your latest book?
Yeah, all right, a good question. When I was doing research, I approached, as I said, best-in-class organization, and I was my question was pretty simple. That how did you speed up the employee development? And I was focused on the broader strategies and practices they have. Interestingly, I figured out there were 200 different kind of technologies that's being used in different contexts. Because organizations' size matters, right? Because some organization can invest heavily on one kind of technology. Some other organization may not be able to invest that heavily. So when I kind of looked at those technologies, and then I kind of figured out they were having 5 different kind of technologies they were using. Recently, I presented a keynote at one of the conference talking about how technology speed up. And what it seems like is, particularly in today's context, in the pandemic and also in the post-pandemic, technologies are going to play a big role in speeding up proficiency. But here is the caveat. Most of the technology in corporations, those which they implement, those are meant for efficiency. That means those are meant for tracking people. Those are meant for tracking the work. And the whole goal of those technologies is to speed up the work, is to make the work more efficient, maybe eliminate certain manual work. Most likely the technologies are never bought with the goal of speeding up the employee development. So when we talk about speeding up employee development or speed to proficiency, a different set of technologies need to be implemented. And unfortunately, the technologies are purchased by a set of people who are never going to be the end user of those technologies, because the end users are employees working for certain managers. So there is a little bit disconnect there. But to answer your question, yes, there are set of technologies that really work wonderfully. Some great example have lately come about is augmented reality based headsets, which are actually eliminating the training altogether.
Yep.
It provides the ability to employees to learn on the go, right in front of their machine or equipment, and they can learn step by step through the network of coaches. So those are the amazing technologies meant for speeding up the development.
I remember many years ago being a quality manager in robotics and automation. I was always fascinated by the ability to remove human beings from the equation, and they did it very, very effectively, very efficiently and proficiently. In terms of the types of training that you are seeing, there will always be an element of humans in a process, won't there?
Yeah, it is. Human element is always there. So part of the guidance which I give to executive is this. I say, if you are going to have technologies, technology can definitely make a lot of things efficient. And historically, what has happened is that we have taught our employees all kinds of skills, all range of skills. So what we do is we stuff our training program too much, because we also add a lot of just in case event. Maybe this happened, then you're going to need this skill. So we teach them too much. So what happens is we teach them so much, their time to proficiency is so long. Now, that was okay, maybe in Industry 3.0. But in Industry 4.0, it's a different equation. Already the technologies which are coming in Industry 4.0 are meant for efficiency. Those are meant for doing the task which a human used to do. But what we are now saying is machine can do it more accurately, faster, efficiently, and the outcome can be much faster with those kind of technologies. So we should reserve human judgment for the things which humans can do better. More emotional judgment, more situational judgment. Yep. We're talking about more critical thinking. We're talking about more complex problem solving, where human involvement is the key. So that we should reserve for human, and we should train our employees on those humanistic skills, while machines can do a lot of things automatically.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm wondering, is there ever a time, Dr. Attri, where slowing down is important as it is speeding up? Should there be a balance?
Yeah. Yes, you said it right, Rick. In fact, that is the foundational principle of my book, Speed Matters. There are two kinds of speeds, if you see. In today's world, what most organizational leaders, they will do is they will push for harsh boundaries. They will push their employees to get the things done quickly. And there's a mad rush about speed. And that kind of strategies where you push for the timeline, when we look for the dates, when we look for completion of the projects and tasks quickly, that is a short-term advantage of speed. It gives an impression that we have the speed, but that speed is not long-term. It doesn't give any competitive advantage. But the speed we are talking about, what really matters in organization is when you give the employee the ability to be able to do the thing first time right, consistently, reliably, repeatably. So when they reach that stage, what happens is the speed what you gain compared to your competitor is long term. And of course, with that kind of speed, it is going to take you go to that particular point of first time right a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. It may feel like going slow in the beginning, but what happens is, what we're saying is, if you build your employees and workforce to go there, you don't have to rework. Your customer satisfaction right on the first transaction is higher. Your customer loyalty is higher. So you get a competitive edge compared to your competitors who might be still focusing on completion of tasks quickly. So you said it right. That is another way of saying go slow, but go first time right. And that's the speed you're going to gain in the long run, which is going to stay with you forever.
That's incredible insight. Thank you so very much. Now, I'm wondering, in terms of all of this work, now, when you're training a group of people, what are the boundaries? Are they better off learning about systems as well? Do you train them how to be proficient in a certain way? You talked about doing it the right way first time, every time. Is there a focus on systems and process control?
Yeah, that's part of that one, but it depends upon the job role. Systems and processes are definitely there. So the way I kind of divide, there are two kinds of skills. One kind of skills we call input skills. Input skills are all the system, processes, technologies, tools, what you're going to need to be able to do your job.
Yeah.
But then there are what we call output focused skill. Output focused skills are your primary job role. Just to give you an example, in pandemic, we have seen it quite a bit. A professor's job is to teach students. And that's the output focused skill. That's the primary skill. Whatever happens on the technology space, doesn't matter. That skill is never going to change. That's going to stay stationary. That means once you master that, how to teach people, it's going to stay forever with you. Because then you will be consistent, you will be reliable, you will be repeatable, your performance will be proficient. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, there are technologies. During pandemic, they were struggling to use Zoom, many of them. But that doesn't take away their ability to be able to teach students. But then today is Zoom. Maybe tomorrow this is going to be new technology. Maybe someday we're going to use holographic technologies to teach our students. So input skills keep changing. And what we're saying is, if we perfect our employees on the output focused skills, they're going to stay relevant much longer. But what happens is that mistake happens is we spend too much time training them on input focused skills. But input focused skills is where your industry 4.0 can replace with machine. There are a lot of things you can delegate to somebody more, and you can offshore a lot of things. You can outsource a lot of things. So these side of the input skills can be automated, can be outsourced, can be done differently. You can possibly hire a technology intern who can help you with a lot of processes, but you can't replace the skill of teaching when it comes to a job role of a professor. So I hope I kind of divided these two buckets of skills, right?
No, I can understand this is a very deep conversation that we could have that could go in many directions, Dr. Attri, and I do appreciate it. I'd love to learn for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, they may not have, I guess, the skill sets or the resources or experience to develop training. How do they go about that?
Good question, Rick. And I think that's the biggest challenge. During the pandemic and post-pandemic. Post-pandemic, it's going to be much more crucial because we have seen that during pandemic, many of these small business owners, they got a hard hit. Many of them actually lost clients, and several of them, they were never trained for speed. So what has happened is they have lost their market share. They have lost their positioning. So in post-pandemic era, they will have this challenge to recover back their market share and the client and their positioning. So part of this one, what we're saying is, only way you can do right now is speed. And the speed we are talking about here is how fast you build the skill set of your employees so that they are consistent, they are reliable, they are doing first time right ahead of your competition. But then it's a big equation we're talking about here. Large organization can afford to put millions of dollars, a whole lot of resources to make that happen. But for small business owners, what my recommendation is that you have to build something called speed enabling ecosystem. Now, what I mean by speed enabling ecosystem is use what you already have. Your people, your team member, if you're a small team, they still gonna need to work with the managers. They still need to work with the environment, what you have set up. They still need to work with the team because they don't work in isolation. And they still work with some of the expert, either internal to your small business or external. It could be consultant and otherwise. And most importantly, you also may have certain technologies or performance support system which you use. So what we're saying is now all these elements together make the ecosystem. This is already there. Only thing is that you possibly never leverage it very well. So now what we're saying is that instead of training your employees upfront, can you change your technology in a way which allow them to learn on the go when they need it, so that their time in the beginning is invested on more critical skills? Something which I can download on the go when I'm talking to client. I don't need to learn it upfront. So that saves me time. When I save my time, I'm faster. That's number one. Number two, what we're saying is in that ecosystem, you always had managers for your teams. You may have one or two or three supervisors, depending upon how big your business is. Those supervisors are always there. So instead of, holding them accountable only for operational details of the business, hold them accountable to take deep interest in employees' development. It makes the whole difference when managers sit with employees, say, hey, how's it going? Are you facing any challenges? Should I give you this assignment that's going to help you learn whatever you learned to apply it in that context? So it makes the whole difference because now employees feel that my manager is with me. So that pushes them forward quite a big time. And that we have seen, if everything is equal in terms of resource, cash and everything, managers can be the biggest enablers or they can be the biggest disablers of speed. So that's they are the core of the ecosystem, right? So what we're saying now is leverage them. You already have them.
Use them. You talked about workplace culture before, and I had something come to mind. Oftentimes, employees will feel like they've just been given more work, more content to consume. There's two parts to this question. Should they be doing some sort of verification and validation of their training at the end of their training to see that they've actually learnt the skill that's necessary? And how do you get workplace teams to embrace training? Really embrace it?
That's a good question. So in my research, what we figured out is that managers in the organization, those organizations who are already successful in speeding up their employees' time to proficiency, they had different kind of behavior. And part of that behavior was not that, okay, you have completed your training. Now I'm going to give you the projects which will help you apply those skills. But they actually took interest and involvement even before the beginning of the training. They sat with training designers. They sat with the trainer. What exactly you're going to teach my employees? This is exactly my challenge. Would you be able to incorporate that? And that's where a lot of thinning happened. Thinning in the sense, that's where they say, this is not relevant. I don't need my employee to learn this. My employee need to produce this. And these are the skills which are necessary. So now what happens is the discussion happens driven by the manager. Now manager dictates what really his employee would need to learn. And then also part of some of the managers even sat during the first half day of the training program. Now imagine when you as a manager sit with your employee in the same training program, employee would know that you care about what's really going to make them successful. So now you don't flood them with irrelevant training. Yep. And part of that one as a manager, you also decide that, this is purely content. It's all memory based. I don't want you to learn this. This one we can download using a smartphone, tablet, or other technologies. You can learn on the go. I want you to learn the skills which are the foundation to your outcomes.
Thank you very much for sharing. I'm wondering about the modus operandi. Is it primarily video nowadays, or is there a text-based component? What's the best modalities for teaching?
I think there is no one method that can work because a human mind is very complex. We can't really predict what kind of information is going to be better in which way. People learn differently. But the thing is that if you got complex data, we definitely have to put it in paper And but if you have something which you only need to listen and absorb, possibly video or audio-based method can work better. But in reality, what we are saying is don't stick to one method. If you have learned an information or a skill in certain mode, then try out a different mode. You're going to need to kind of watch video even if you have read a text. So what happens is when you absorb the information, process the information using all your senses, it gets encoded deeply into your mind. And when you need it, you can reproduce it and use it. So that's also the key to the proficiency. How many different channels you are using to get these skills encoded in your brain.
What an incredibly talented individual you are to have all this knowledge. It's taken you so long to combine all of this. You've obviously taken the time to write, I think it's more than 20 books now. I'd love to just touch on that briefly. What are some of the topics that you touch on throughout your series of books?
I write books on different aspects. I'm not just focused on professional. I also write on personal. Yep. Because my belief is this: as a human, we are multidimensional. We carry a lot of our experience in our life. We have been son in our life. We have been father in our life. We have been friend in our life. We are spouses, and a lot of different roles we play in our life at different points. We're not just managers or leaders. So that's one part of the identity, the work we do. But away from work, we have a lot of other personal things that shape us, our multidimensional personality. So I pick different pieces from my personality and convert into books. I have written books on poetry. I have written books, huge coffee table books containing hand-drawn portraits, paintings, right? And then I have also written books on leadership. I have written books on training and learning. And now I'm more focused on writing the books about speed and how do you accelerate your path. But on the go, there are some books I'm preparing which are more about coaching new author. How do you write a world-class book? So I basically touch upon different part of the personality, what I do best, and then I try to capture that in form of books. So my books are multi-genre.
No, that's wonderful. It's better to leave the knowledge that you've attained throughout your life rather than try and take it with you when you're gone, isn't it? I'm wondering if you just could, if we're getting to the pointy end of the call now, I was wondering if we can spend a few moments talking about, firstly, just very briefly, your speaking. How has the pandemic global situation affected that? Is it are doors starting to open up again?
I think it's contextual. It depends upon which country you are based in. But the countries like Singapore, where the impact is not that big. Of course, the international borders are still closed.
Yes.
There is a lot more opportunity. Things are opening up. Virtually, it has been opened ever since from the day one of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. But the in-person event for speaking event, those are coming along now.
Excellent.
A little bit restricted in terms of you need to follow a lot of protocol, and there are a lot of logistics involved. But it's coming along well. But I think some of the countries have already opened up the live events.
I can imagine how excited people are to come and see you, and I can't wait for people to have that opportunity once again. Now, can we talk about Speed Matters, the book, just very briefly in terms of, is it a cover-to-cover read, or is it more of a resource book that you would go back to, and what will people find inside this wonderful book?
All right. I wrote this book specifically for top leaders, CEOs, and executives. To educate them about how they can go speed savvy for the times to come. So in this book, I have integrated both research insight and business wisdom together. The book itself is a result of research with 70 best-in-class organizations. Yeah. During that, I approached 85 world leaders from 7 countries. These were the leaders for whom speed mattered a lot as a competitive weapon. We have seen that, a lot of organizations have struggled during COVID-19. But at the same time, a lot of other organizations, they have fast-tracked. They have accelerated their implementation. But my context for this book was that why the timing was very important. Because after the pandemic is over, several organizations will struggle to recover their market share, revenue, or customer. So they need to master speed. So that leadership thought process is what I covered in this book, hoping to make that speed as priority for those who want to stay relevant in times to come. So in this book, I talk about how to prioritize time to proficiency metrics of their teams and how leaders can bring that language of speed in their organization. So I have shared a lot of alarming numbers because more often leaders don't know how long does it take for their employees to develop. So from different industries, I have compiled the number. I've shown them that how alarming those numbers are. And then I have also shown that how much a reduction is possible, how much speed is possible in different contexts. And when you do that, what kind of business benefit you're going to get in terms of revenue, in terms of retention, in terms of customer satisfaction, and other business KPIs. So that's the complete about 300 pages of book, a lot of information, mainly meant for CEOs to open up their eyes, or the founders of companies to open up to that idea that I never thought about that. Recently, I just kind of delivered a keynote at a very large conference. And the chief human resource officer said, you know what, this makes so much sense. But I wonder why I never paid attention to this ever. So it's an education. It's an education gap, I would say.
It's an amazing piece of work that you've put together. You're doing some incredible work, and it's a credit to you. And thank you very much for all of that. Now, when people want to find you, I guess, where are they going to go and where can they buy this book?
This book is available in all the booksellers, retailers across the world, but I guess a lot of people these days buy at Amazon. Mm-hmm. So the book is available in Amazon. It's available in paperback as well as library edition, very beautiful one, jacketed hardcover book.
Very
so
nice.
Most executives typically like those kind of books, which they can keep it on their shelf. So this book is designed from that angle. So in Amazon, readers, the listeners can go ahead and buy it. Just need to search Speed Matters by Dr. Raman, and it will be there.
Fantastic. And I'm assuming that if they want to touch base with you at Expert X, they will go to speed2proficiency.com.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a hard to remember website, but they can actually go to ramankatri.com. That's my name website, and it's going to lead them to Expert X automatically. So that's the best place to reach me.
Well, thank you so very much. Now, if anybody who's on the call today is looking to get their hands on this wonderful content and to learn more from Dr. Attri, I'll be making sure that the links are available below this post. No matter where you see it, you will definitely find those links back to Dr. Attri. And with that being said, thank you so very much for joining me on the My Future Business Show today.
Thank you so much, Rick. It has been my pleasure. Really appreciate, and more so, I would like to appreciate your research skills. You have deep dived into my profile, and your questions were wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.